Ricketts was the first place I went that I remembered you could literally eat off the infield grass. I mean, if there were bacon and eggs on the grass, not a problem. It was that clean. It was kept that nice. It was major league manicured, at least pro ball specifications manicured as well as a field could be. And, but then you envision, I think when you get off the bus and you're seeing all of it, you envision it being full of people. And we didn't have to wait long. That next night when they parade everybody in, it's completely full, and it's definitely eye-opening. It's an experience that I won't forget.
I'm very excited about our next episode. This is my first interview for Varsity Pulse Radio, and I am fortunate enough to interview two men that made an impact on my personal and baseball life. We haven't spoken over 25 years, but they are joining me today to talk about how the Connie Mack World Series impacted them, as well as how this tournament is way more than just baseball. Welcome all the way from the East Coast, Joe Cristy and James Jimmy Benton.
All right, so gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me here on Varsity Pulse Radio. It has been 29 years since we've seen each other. I was a smidge younger. You two were a smidge younger. You guys were still in high school, about to go to college. I was entering high school. And man, time has flown by, but I have to admit, seeing you two, I don't see much difference from the last time I saw either one of you guys. And I have a lot more white on my beard than both of you, which is, we'll get into that later. And but welcome, guys. Thank you so much for joining me.
Travis, thanks for having us. It's great to get back together.
Absolutely. The memories are definitely still there. They are right on the frontal lobe. I can still remember it like it was yesterday.
And that's why we're doing this, because I feel, and I'll go through that a few times in this little podcast, of how much of an impact this tournament has on not only the people, the players, the coaches, but the families that were involved. And so leading into that, can you tell about your baseball journey leading up to the Connie Mack World Series? What was your journey going into the Connie Mack World Series?
JB, you hit more than I did, so I'll let you lead off.
For us, going into Connie Mack World Series, local, of course, we had to play our local tournaments and won that. Then we had to play states, won that. And then we would usually travel up north, I believe, to Albany, New York. And we'd have to face some really tough opponents. One team, Youth Service, out of the Bronx, was very good. Players like Manny Ramirez and Frankie Rodriguez played for those guys. So going up to New York was definitely a big challenge for us. But for us, we made it back-to-back years out to the Connie Mack World Series, and it was awesome.
Yeah, he nailed it on the head. And in fact, the second year, Jimmy, they changed a lot of things. And we didn't have to go to the Albany-Schenectady, I think it was a district tournament. We went straight to Long Island. I don't know if that was because we had won it the year before and we didn't have to go through two different steps to get back out to New Mexico or not. But all we did was win the state, and we went directly to Long Island the second year. But that first year was grueling because we had 2 straight weekends where we had to travel. And it was Albany, Schenectady, and then we came all the way back home, and then we had to go right to Long Island the very next weekend to play Smithtown Bulls and Youth Service League. And it was not an easy path that first year when we did that. Not to say it was the second year, but the second year we at least didn't have to travel back-to-back weekends.
Well, I think the first year, I mean, the teams that we faced were definitely better competition. But if you remember, the second year we actually lost early in the tournament.
Yeah.
And the team was dancing and telling us to go home, and we almost got into a little brawl at the fence line when they told us just to pack our bags, and it was done that we weren't going to see them again. And we came back and we double dipped that team. I believe, Joe, you were on the mound for the championship game, correct?
I was. I started the game. I didn't finish it like I did the first year. But when you get a little older, you need some relief on those long days when it's a doubleheader and you get into the late innings. So we had some help, no doubt, and it was awesome to be a part of it both years. Incredible.
Yeah, I remember I was in the pen warming up to come in for the championship game, and I cannot remember who was on the mound. But I know once we got 2 outs, I was like, forget it. I'm running down to the dugout because we're about to win this thing.
Yeah.
And that was a journey to the World Series. So going in that direction, tell me a little bit more about your team, where you guys are actually from. So you guys played on the New York side of things to get to Farmington. And you guys weren't from New Jersey or New York, so you guys had to travel a little bit, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, no, we were all pretty much Baltimore kids. At least the bulk of the first year team, it was before our name was the Baltimore Bedouins, and really it was just the Bedouins, but we had to have an identity, I think, when we started getting to the point where, we were playing better and better teams and in better and better tournaments, because we played in a Baltimore Metro League. It's so foreign as to how they do things now, right? And now you just show up, you roll up to a showcase event. Kids play all weekend. They barely practice during the week. If they do practice, it's usually with an individual instructor. It was crazy. Jimmy, correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, we played like every day except Monday. And we would usually practice on Monday, but we'd play double headers on Saturday and Sunday, but we'd play league games Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and even Friday most weeks.
I was actually trying to find the records from those years, but I believe the first year we went out to Farmington, I believe we were 48-11.
Yeah.
We played 59 games that summer.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And then the second year, I believe we only had 9 losses. I think we were 47-9. So we were playing a tremendous amount of baseball every day. Doubleheaders, like Joe said, on Saturday and Sunday.
That's a good memory, because I have no idea what our record was. I know we were really good.
You guys are really good.
But what we started to do, Travis, that first year, once we got to the point where, and Randy Cale built this thing. He and Ed Clay and a handful of our other coaches, Ronnie Kendall was our pitching coach that Jimmy and I spent a lot of time with. Those guys wanted a regional team, and Randy is still working toward that. He's been in and out of baseball with his kids, and now he's kind of gotten back into it since his kids have moved on through college and stuff. And when we started winning, Randy realized he could start going a few other places to get some other pieces. So we had a couple guys. Was it Ryan Burks? Jimmy, he drove down from just across the Pennsylvania line.
Yeah.
Wow.
We had another kid from Havre de Grace, which I think most people that are baseball fans in the country know that's where Cal Ripken was born and raised. But Billy,
Billy Greenwald.
No. Billy Greenwell, super guy, different story. But man, that kid's a hit machine. His dad owned Grand Slam batting cages, and you talk about a kid that could just hit anything. Because I think he was 7 years old, and his dad was putting him in a 90+ cage. But no, I mean, my point is, we had guys that would drive from a lot further distances to be able to have the opportunities that our team was giving guys. And it wasn't just, I know we're focused on the Connie Mack World Series, Travis. It wasn't just the Connie Mack World Series, but it was, I might have the ability to play in college if I play with a team of this caliber, because I'll get more eyes right on me. Emar Fleming, I just talked to Emar the other day, Jimmy. He's in Dallas, Texas, but I don't know that he gets drafted by the Texas Rangers if he doesn't play with us, because he wasn't getting any eyes at Dundalk High School. And that was his high school team, but he didn't have a summer team to play with necessarily. And then we picked him up his second year, and things went that way. Jimmy, I'll let you continue to comment.
I believe his son is a stud.
He is. Dubs. He
Dubs
actually
is a
High Point
left-handed
here is
hitter.
recruiting him.
Yeah. And I believe Ryan Keneally that we played with, his son, very good also.
Yeah.
Interesting. So now that you're talking about all the tournament on the way to the Connie Mack World Series, and you're right, there are a lot of now showcases per se. There's so much out there and so many other, might you say, competition when it comes to tournaments. So the AABC now teamed up with 5-Tool, and now all of our regional tournaments go through 5-Tool. Well, one example this year is the South tournament, which was the South Regional, that is a qualifier out of Dallas. They had 44 teams in that tournament.
Yeah.
So legit teams. Well, they divided it this year and from the South to the Dallas qualifier. So it ended up being 11-11, or excuse me, 22-22, sorry. And by doing that, it allowed 2 regionals to be held in the same place and getting 2 regionals done basically at the same time. And with the so much competition of so many other tournaments, that's another reason why I want to do this podcast is to encourage kids to go this route. 5-Tool is a great option for tournaments and to qualifiers and whatever else. And then they make it to the Connie Mack World Series. That's why I want you guys on here is like, talk about your most vivid memory playing in the Connie Mack World Series. Why is it such an impact on you today from something that happened 29, 30 years ago?
I think for me, I was born and raised in Baltimore City, and, Randy happened to see me pitching in a city game. I never thought anyone would even look at me in the city. I had no idea. From memories of being out there, I think the funniest memory for me was actually the first pitch on the mound in warm-ups. I actually hit the backstop. So that's definitely a memory. And I was like, I guess I better get it together here.
Right.
But just the hospitality, man. I mean, I'm a little biased, but your mom and dad was absolutely awesome. I can still
I'm kind of biased too.
I can taste their peanut butter homemade cookies every night before bed also, my man.
That's funny. I love it.
Yeah,
How
for
about for
me,
you, Joe?
similarly, I wasn't sure where my baseball career was going to go, right, at age 15 or 16. I had played for some good teams, but until I had the opportunity that I got with Randy and the Bedouins and playing with guys like James and, so many other wonderful guys, a lot we haven't even dived into and listed as of yet. I mean, we had stars. We had big time guys, that signed professionally. Some were drafted and obviously some indie ball and whatnot. But the opportunity to play in that environment, the amount of scouts that were there sitting behind the backstop, the amount of quality opponents, right? If you look back at some of the programs, and I try to do this, I tried to actually find it for this podcast, but I know the first year, Brad Lidge, J.J. Putz, and we actually played J.J. Putz. We played the team from Michigan, Trenton, Michigan, in the first game. And who was the other one? Oh, Alex Cora was with Puerto Rico, right? Manager of the Red Sox now. Just looking back at the program, you knew guys were going to make it. You just didn't know who.
Right.
But you could tell who had it, right, when you were there on the field. And it was just it was awesome to be on the same field with a lot of those guys. The one moment that stands out to me, Jimmy, you remember we were on the bus. We had to fly into Albuquerque.
Yes.
We went Baltimore to Dallas the first year, and Baltimore to Houston, I think, the second year. But then the plane went into Albuquerque, and it was a long trip. But most of us had never been out west that far.
Most of us have never been on a plane before.
Right. I remember a couple guys were scared to death because they had never flown. That's right.
Right. Right.
And we get on a bus and we're told we've got a 2.5 hour drive to Albuquerque or to Farmington from Albuquerque, coming from the airport. And we're like, are you serious? Like, we've been sitting on a plane 2 hours and then another 2 hours. And so we get on this bus and we're all just tired. We're excited, but I mean, it was a long trip out there. Well, you get into the Farmington city limits and you get stopped by the police. And we all thought the bus driver was speeding. We didn't know what was going on.
What's going on?
And the policeman gets on the bus and he's like, want to welcome everybody to Farmington. Congratulations on making it to the Connie Mack World Series. This is your police escort to get you checked in and ready for the tournament. And we were like, what the heck are you talking about? Jimmy and I are both from the city. You're from Baltimore City and the cops stop you. There's a problem.
Yeah.
It's usually much larger than what we think is a speeding ticket. So
right.
It was
That's
pretty
amazing.
eye-opening when you got the police escort to get checked in.
Well, the crowd the first night also. I mean, Joe, I know we're pretty much from the same area, but I mean, if we had 50 people watching us at a baseball game, it was a lot. And that was even, championship games or not championship games. And it was pretty much your just family and your closest friends that were watching you.
Yeah, that's right.
But to come into a stadium with 15,000 plus, it was a little eye opening. From kids asking you for autographs. I'm like, I don't even know what my autograph is. Like, I remember being at your house and like practicing. Like, what am I going to sign? I have no idea what they even sign.
Yeah.
I was trying to find that baseball you guys signed, and I don't think it's one of those up there. I think it's in another box. I didn't find it yet, but I do still have your guys' autograph on the baseball that you guys signed. And what's funny about that, you talk about the autographs and how kind of funny it is. Well, anymore, if you think about these new baseball players, a lot of them don't even know how to write in cursive. So how are they now signing their name? Well, you better figure it out when you get to the Connie Mack World Series, because you are going to be hundreds of times during this week. And to echo what you guys said on the big crowd, so you guys played in 94, 95. I played in 99. And I kind of experienced the big crowds because, I was able to go watch games. But you go on the other side of that fence and the other side of those lines, it's a totally different experience than you being a fan.
Yes.
So you guys coming in, seeing it, you have the police escort coming in, which is kind of funny because I can see you guys' perception and be like, oh my gosh, what did we do wrong? And should we get on the bus and put our hands on our heads or what? But it's just part of the whole thing. And then you guys go on to the parade.
Well, the one thing that there's another thing that stands out to me too, is Randy was all about, if you want to play college ball, if you want to play professional ball, you're going to look professional and you're going to dress professional. So I can remember us getting on the bus that first year, and we actually shared it with another team. I don't know if you remember or not, Joe.
Yep.
And we're all in suit and ties. And this other team comes in, and they have sweatpants on and shorts. And every other team was the same way. And we ended up winning, I believe it was the Sportsmanship Award, the first year as a team, because we were all dressed up, professional, suit, ties, and everything else.
If we were getting on a plane, we were getting on it looking like a major league team. That's exactly right.
And that doesn't happen as much anymore. That's another area we don't need to talk into. But so for the both of you guys, can you show me or share a story of a significant triumph or a turning point for your team during the series? Either year that you guys are here.
Well, we didn't have very much success the first year. I believe we went 0-2, so.
That's right. I think you did.
But,
I think you're right.
We actually had some bad breaks. I believe the first game, it was a ball dropped in center field from the sun, and I believe 3 runs scored, and we ended up losing the game by 1, I believe.
Yeah.
The first year, I didn't actually hit the first year, and I only got on the mound once because of the 2 games. But then the second year, I didn't pitch, but then I hit. So I was determined to get a hit. I finally got a hit, and it was awesome. I mean, I still remember it. I can remember, I think I was 0 for 3. I believe I was going up to the plate, and I turned around, and I told Gary Kendall at the time, I was like, Gary, I'm getting a hit this at bat. And he goes, I believe it. And guy threw a pitch, hit it straight up the box, threw the pitcher, and I got my first base hit. So something I still remember almost 30 years ago.
Amazing. Joe, for you?
Yeah, the first year out was a lot of adjustments. Altitude was a big part of it. I was a guy that did not throw terribly hard. I had 4 pitches though I could throw in any count. I had really good command, right? I was a spot guy. I was that Jamie Moyer, Greg Maddox. Wasn't as good as either of those two guys, but that was how I got through games.
Right.
And you talk about going out there, and I couldn't figure out for the life of me why I just could not get as much movement or spin on a curveball, or I had a fourth pitch that was a slip, sort of called a slip pitch that, you hold the ball with just a slightly different grip. It's a lot like these sweepers these guys are throwing these days.
Okay.
And I just couldn't get any break on it and couldn't understand why, and figured out for the life of me. And I was a guy that relied on that soft stuff.
Right.
And so that was a huge adjustment that first year. But the second year, the turning point was we won a game. And I really think that proved a lot to ourselves. Again, we went in the hole. We lost game 1. We were 0-1, and we were determined, like, we are not out of here 2 years in a row, 0-2. And we ended up winning the second game and getting a third game that second year. And that really was a big turning point, I think, not just for us as individuals, but for the program as a whole, because our team developed into a much larger program after that, with some of the things that Randy did in the years thereafter. So
I'm going to add on something right there real quick about Joe's arsenal of pitches. I can remember charting a game one time in Penn State. And Joe threw a complete 7-inning game, 80 pitches, only like 9 balls thrown the whole entire game.
That's amazing.
I can still remember it.
When I was on, I was on. You were the bulldog. You would come in huffing and puffing and snorting and close games down, big games that we needed to win. And then you would give us length as a starter when we needed it. I was that guy that, I might not break your sliding glass door with my fastball, but I'll put it in a place where you can't hit it and throw strike.
So, yeah, you're talking about elevation. Well, it's really dry here, so there's another reason why your ball doesn't move. But when the ball is hit really well, it travels a long way. So, thankfully, you didn't have to experience that too much. And the tournament,
that's why we went over.
Because you were the ones giving up the long ball, huh?
I think JJ Putz' brother hit one that hasn't landed yet. 30 years, it's still in orbit.
It's still in orbit somewhere else. Yeah. That's hilarious. So the tournament has changed a little bit. I don't know if you guys know. So now there's 12 teams that come, and they play 3 games of pool play, and then they get seeded, of course, and then it's double elimination. So they changed it about, I think, 2016. I'll have to verify that. And the reason is all the other tournaments are doing the same thing. So why would they go to the Connie Mack World Series and just have double elimination? I mean, we are in the middle of nowhere, so it's not real easy to get to anyways. They changed it. We've had a lot more teams wanting to do it. So this year, out of all the tournaments that have happened, all the regionals, all the qualifiers, there's been 148 teams try to get to the World Series, and now we're down to 12. So amazing. And next year, they're trying to open up some more tournaments up in the Northwest, and hopefully we can get some stuff coming out of there. Right now, we have basically 8 regionals that they come from, and it's crazy how it's changed. But we had to adapt to allow the tournament to grow and to continue to go down that same direction.
Travis, did I see that they're letting teams from Canada come down now?
Yeah, so last 2 years, there has been a team, Mississauga Tigers. Of course, they're from Mississauga, Canada, or Ontario, Canada. And last year they came down and they had a good showing. I think they were 2-1 in the pool play, and then they won their first game and then lost their next 2. But good, solid team. They actually ended up losing on the last at bat on their last game. I do remember that. To eventually champions of the Dallas Tigers. And that Dallas Tiger team last year was unreal. And then a few years ago, we had a team, our first team from Oklahoma come in, the Enid Majors. They went 39-0 that season, and they never allowed more than 5 runs in any game during that entire season.
Wow.
Unreal.
That's
unreal
nice.
team. One of those teams that just came in and just smoked everybody. It was crazy. So now we have one of our regionals are now in Norman, Oklahoma, and they were the first team to win out of Norman. And now we have that one there every year. It's the last regional they're allowed to qualify for. And this year we have a team called the Oklahoma Express. This is the second time they've been here. Last year they had a pretty good showing. So tournament has continued to grow. It, continues to go in that right direction.
That's great.
So moving on, how did playing in the Connie Mack World Series impact your personal and baseball career?
I got to talk. For me, it just prepared me for college ball. I still had no idea where I was going to end up going to school. I ended up going to a division school called Barton College down in North Carolina, and followed the path of a former player who played with us, Paul Barabbas, that played down there. And I still talk to Paul to this day. He comes up for another guy, Matt Cooper, golf outing. He has a charity golf outing that he does. It's always cold and rainy, but it's in November, so we know what to expect. But there's about 4 or 5 of us that get together still for that golf outing every year. But just going to the college level and the experience out there, I thought I was prepared. Like, I'd hate to say this, but I'm pretty sure the teams that we played on as the Bedouins were better than my college team. That's the way I felt. We had everything from power, speed. We could do anything. And then going to college and just being ready, like the atmosphere, there was nothing going to be too big, I felt, once that experience happened for me. I figured that I'm here, I can do it now, and it was a great experience, and it just led me into having a great college career. And going back to what Joe was talking about, last time he saw me was when I pitched a no-hitter against his college team. So, and actually, Randy had came down on a visit with another, I think it was 4 guys, bringing them down south because we were all going to the same area. I think High Point was like 2 hours away from our college. And then what was the school, Joe, that Elrod Hendricks' sons went to?
Ian went to St. Andrews.
Yeah. I'll let you talk, Joe.
Yeah, no worries. No,
I love it, guys. I love it.
For me, I get a lot of questions about baseball and impacting my life and that sort of thing. Just like your question, and my answer is, it's not canned, but it's pretty much the same to everyone that asks. And my son asks because he's curious now that he's 12 and playing travel ball and wanting to know some things to expect. But I tell everybody, baseball took me further than anything else that I've done in my life. And I'm talking about work and jobs and a career and things along those lines, because it forces you to do a couple of things, right? While baseball is a team sport, it's actually very much an individual sport. You rely on the individual success, every guy that's on the team. And yeah, there are nights where you're not playing. I was a PO. I was pitcher only for the most part. And, if you're not playing that night, it's how can you impact the game? And so, you're trying to steal signs, you're charting pitches, you're keeping spray charts, or you're doing whatever you can to help the buddy next to you succeed as best they can. But, when you ramp it up and you get to the point where you're playing teams of this caliber night in and night out, and in every tournament that you end up at, and then you come out to Connie Mack World Series, and, you like I mentioned before, you've got scouts and you've got a crowd full of people that you've never played in front of before. That happens to be the biggest crowd that you might ever play in front of. You need to be prepared. And I think that's exactly what the Connie Mack World Series and playing baseball with the Bedouins did for me personally. And I think it did for a lot of other guys. I don't want to speak for anyone else, but it prepared me as best it could in a lot of ways to be able to say, you're ready to go on and play at the next level. And for most of us, it was college. For some of us, there were guys that ended up playing pro ball because of some of their experiences. But we were so prepared, and we had coaches that made sure we were prepared. It's why the one off night we had, most weeks we still practiced. We took BP, we ran, pitchers got, spot drills in, and we did things because we wanted to be prepared to win. But it's honestly set me up for success in a lot of things that I've done, because I've realized if you don't prepare for your job or for your hobbies or for, what it is that you do in life, that you're probably going to lose. You got to be prepared. And that's exactly what the experience taught me.
Fantastic. I love it. And for me, that was so not only the World Series, just baseball in general, just like you said, Joe. It's the dealing with failure. It's overcoming failure. It's realizing that, hey, this is not the end of the road. I still have, in life, you still have maybe another opportunity, but at baseball, you have another at bat.
Yep.
Learning from others, being a team player, like you said, as a pitcher, trying to pick off signs and whatever else. And what I did when I coached, I taught them that so we have, say we're playing 7 innings. You have 3 outs per inning when you're batting, right? So that's 21 outs. That's 21 outs that you were able to, or 21 at bats at the minimum, they're able to study the pitcher and figure out what he's doing. So that means you literally get, at minimum, 21 at bats. If you're paying attention, taking notes, and seeing how that pitcher, what his tendencies are when he throws off speed, whatever the case may be. Well, that's the same with life. You observe things around you, you take those notes, and that allows you to improve on what you just came from, and now it gets you closer to the next goal. So, man, right. Fantastic way of saying it, Joe.
Yeah, well, I just wish we had some of the technology these guys have now when we were playing.
Oh, absolutely.
Fair enough,
so
man.
Much better.
Oh my gosh! But
even in the days game, like when I go to watch the Orioles, I mean, obviously they're a lot better now, but just sitting down and with my friends or my wife by me, and I'm calling out things that are going to happen, and they're like, "How do you know that?" And I'm like,
"Yeah,
it's just watching the game. You could tell. Like I could tell when a guy's stealing the base, or a guy wants to bunt, or what he's trying to do at home plate. Like you can tell, and sometimes just feel it almost. But that's just studying. Right. That's just studying the game, and being prepared is actually what, really kicked in with me coming from the city. The first time, I went to a practice with our coach, Randy, and I can remember to this day, like, he was like, practice is at 5:00, but that doesn't mean you show up at 5:00.
5:00. Yeah.
That means you show up at 4:30, you stretch, you throw, you take your BP, whatever you got to do, because practice is going to start at 5:00. Not showing up at 5.
Right.
Always being a student of the game, man. That's what I always love calling it. You're always learning, and if you love what you do, you're always going to be a student of that. And you can't be an expert until you're a student. And even when you're an expert, you still better be learning, because there's always new things that come along the way that's never happened before. And I think baseball overall is an exact example of our life and how that works out. I mean, I guarantee you this year, you watched 10 games, there was something that happened in those 10 random games that you've never seen happen in your life. And you're watching the Orioles, so there's always something random going on with the Orioles this year, man. They're good. They're solid. I'm a Braves guy, so I'm really struggling because I really hate that the Phillies are in first place right now, but it is what it is. So
a handful of injuries, you'll be okay. You'll be okay.
Oh yeah, there's only been 14 this year for the Braves. Good God.
Yeah. Hey, look, just to add on to some of what Jimmy said, I've been so fortunate to work calling baseball games now, public address wise, pro games, but mainly at High Point University where I went, and now you can see the Wake Forest logo on my shirt. I know on the Zoom call here, but you're in a press box. And you've got these Rapsodo machines, right? And you've got these other pieces of technology. You got guys on the mound that are throwing, and immediately when the catcher catches the ball, all of the stuff. And I've sat there. I'm on a microphone, right? Obviously doing my job, and I keep score because that way I don't lose my place. Getting old, you lose your place. But you see the monitor, and the results of these pitches are immediate. You see the tunneling, right? So you can see the direction of the ball coming out of the hand from the pitcher. You see the spin rate. You see the velo. You see all of this stuff. Jimmy, if you and I had, we had that stuff when we were 16, 17, 18, we'd have been dangerous, man. I'd have had a better curveball than the one that I had. I would have probably found a way to throw a mile or two harder than I did to give me a better looking, life on a fastball. But man, these guys have so many great tools. And I've had the conversation before with Randy. Randy Kale he came down to my house, Jim. I think it was 3 summers ago now. Actually, it was in the fall. It was after summer had ended. But he came down and visited. It was great to have him here. We caught up. He was actually trying to start another team down here and kind of get an affiliation down here. Just having meetings about that. But we talked about if these kids played the schedule that we played, and then they had a couple practice nights where they could look at some of this data, instead of just going to showcase events, shoving it as hard as they can for, their 3 innings in a 3-game or 4-game tournament that they're going to pitch, and then getting the data on a printout of what they threw and what what all the numbers were with spin rate and all that stuff. If they could do that, they'd have the total package. I think you wouldn't see as many arm injuries and things that that you see, because we threw almost every day. It was a program, and it was set up by somebody that had more knowledge than we did about what we were doing. But even in college, I threw every day. And then there was a long toss day, and then there was a spot drill day, and there was a bullpen day. And then maybe you took a day off, but I still threw soft toss to somebody. And then it was your day to pitch again. And I just think these kids get in so many they get in so much trouble and have so many issues nowadays because they're not throwing as much. And when they do throw, they're going out and they're trying to throw every ball as hard as they can to trying to get guys out and impress somebody so that they can get a college scholarship or have an opportunity to play at the next level.
The game has certainly changed, and I like the old school way personally. And me as a hitter, I would have loved to see how this pitcher throws and how far a curveball and break rate and all that kind of stuff. It would have been, my senior year, I was fortunate enough that I led the state of New Mexico in home runs, which is freaking amazing. But keep in mind it's New Mexico, and there wasn't even 1 million people in the state, so keep that in mind too. But I was fortunate enough where I had a really, I was fortunate enough where
sell yourself short.
That's another topic we can get into. We're talking about the bats back then. But anyways, if I would have had the information, you just go off of memory or what the paper you read beforehand, your little scouting report, and you're like, okay, this guy has a tendency throwing a curveball on 101. Okay, well, I knew one guy. I faced him enough over the years because we have a small area. I know what he's going to throw and how he's going to throw it. But then you go into these big tournaments, like especially when I played in the World Series, we played, I think like you guys, I think we played like 60 or 65 games, something like that summer. And I think we only lost at the end of after the end of the Connie Mack World Series. I think we only ended up losing like 9 games as well. We were solid. We went to Dallas and played some big tournaments, and it was all local kids around, the Farmington area. We were just fortunate enough had a really good team, and we ended up going 2-2 in the World Series that year. But having that data, oh my gosh, we could have been a step ahead of that, even better. But everybody else has that same data, so maybe it evens out at the end. I don't know how that works, but we can't go back and change that. I wish we could, but we can't go back and change that. Darn it. So back to Ricketts Park. Let's go back and focus on what that was. How was it like playing at Ricketts Park? James, you kind of hit that a little bit earlier, but go a little bit more into it, like as you said on the bump, but you as a player and your team going out there and seeing all that was around you at Ricketts Park.
Just for me, of course, when you come into the stadium and you get bombarded by every child who wants an autograph, you're not even on the field yet. And then once you get onto the field and you turn around and look and, you see 15,000 plus people, it was definitely eye-opening for me. Like I said before, I've only probably played in front of a max of maybe 50, maybe 75 people before that. And then going back on the question where you asked my biggest memory, the first ball out of the bullpen, I hit the backstop, and I'm like, you better get it together here, kid, because it's not going to turn out the way you want it to. But I do remember the first pitch I actually threw was actually a triple. Guy hit it off the wall, scored 2 runs. But then I believe I struck the next 2 guys out, and then it was a weak ground ball to Jerry Vescioni, our shortstop that year, and he got the guy out at first. So I only give up 2 runs. But
For you, Joe?
For me, they take you to the field. It's actually, where that police escort, I think, first took us. They let you look at the field and the stadium real quick, and then they take you over to the rec center to check in, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
And, when we got there, a lot of us had come from programs just a year or 2 prior. We played on fields that didn't even have a fence.
Yes.
It was run, rabbit, run.
Wow.
So, you had to pitch to guys' weaknesses, or if you got one in the wheelhouse and made a mistake, it was a home run,
all
not
day.
by the fact that it went over
my
a
home
fence.
school, my high school home field did not have a fence on it.
Yeah.
Crazy.
So,
Yeah.
for a lot of us, seeing a stadium like that for the first time, and we played at a community college, we played at a fairly nice park. Honestly, comparably speaking, I think to a lot of the other teams in our leagues, there were a handful of other really nice fields, but Ricketts was the first place I went that I remembered you could literally eat off the infield grass. If there were bacon and eggs on the grass, not a problem. It was that clean. It was kept that nice. It was major league manicured, at least pro ball specifications manicured as well as a field could be. And, but then you envision, I think when you get off the bus and you're seeing all of it, you envision it being full of people. And we didn't have to wait long. That next night when they parade everybody in, it's completely full. And it's definitely eye-opening. It's an experience that I won't forget. And I was proud. That first year, my family couldn't come out. The second year, my mom did.
Do you remember that?
Made the trip out with me, but the first year, I had nobody here. So I was really so proud of, what we accomplished as a team and my teammates, but for guys like you and your brother, Sean, Travis, and your parents, like you were my host family. And I was proud to see you guys in the stands and, to just kind of feel good about indirectly having somebody be proud of me that wasn't my own family. That was really it's what bonded us. It's easier now to stay in touch with social media and such. I'm glad you told me you led the state of New Mexico in home runs. I knew you had a good career. I didn't know you led a state in home runs, for crying out loud. That's amazing. Like this is stuff that we need to catch up on that, some of it we missed out on, but it was just nice to have somebody there to be as proud for us as we were for each other.
Yeah, I can remember all the things that we did with your mom and dad from, I believe, the first year. I don't know if we should say this or not, but going out and try to shoot some lizards.
We did.
You can say it, man. Free country, and we're doing it on BLM land, so let's go.
And
That's
then
right.
From the boat, going out on the boat on the lake,
Yep.
which your dad took us out on. And then I don't know if you remember this or not, but the second year we actually went on a little golf trip too. We went golfing that year. And I believe I have a picture of you and your brother in the golf cart with Joe, I believe, somewhere. I'd have to find it. Because I remember the second year, I was like, I missed so much and wish I'd have took so many more pictures than I did the first year. So I took as much as I could the second year.
Think about it. Over the time frame that you guys were playing, the first and second year total was maybe 6 days total.
Yeah.
Because you came in on like the day before the tournament. We had the parade. We had all that. Then you guys go right into tournament play, and it's double elimination. And how it used to be, you lose, you play the next morning. And they're basically trying to get the teams out of there just because they don't want to put a burden on the foster families and that kind of stuff. But you win a game, man, you could be there for 3-4 more extra days, just how the tournament lays out that year. So the one thing I remember, and still to this day, I still have the video games. Do you guys remember Little League World Series?
Yeah,
Do
absolutely.
you guys remember? Do you guys remember we had that little tournament and we had a few
Played
of the
the
other
heck out
players
of it.
come in?
Yeah.
Yeah, I still have that game. It still works. It's downstairs in my living room, and
That's awesome.
my son and I played it a while back, and that was my fondest memory. Which I don't even like video games, but sitting down
Well,
with you guys and just hanging out.
I can remember your mom being worried the first year we were on a trampoline in the backyard, and she was worried that we were going to get hurt, and she didn't want that.
Right. Oh, yeah.
She didn't want that to happen on her watch.
He still worries about that stuff, and nobody uses trampoline anymore. So that's funny. I remember that. Yep.
That's
So let's
cool.
go back. Let's go off of the foster family stuff. So you guys are not the only people that have ever come out to the Connie Mack World Series and have experienced the foster. I don't want to say life, but really it's life. You develop, in a sense, a second family. Tell me about your experience and how that has affected your guys' life since.
Yeah, it's just, kind of going back to what I was stating, like, you've got these people who really don't even know you, but who have given up their lives to get to know you and to support you while you're here in town. And I mean, I know we missed a handful of years, but again, once the social media stuff, caught fire and 2005, 6, 7, somewhere that a lot of people were able to reconnect. That's still how I talk to a lot of the guys on this team. Now I'm helping a handful of them with college stuff. That's why I talked to Emar Fleming the other day, James, that his son's, getting connected with a college up here, and he just had some questions for me. But same thing with the foster and host family situation, Travis. Like, you want to say happy birthday. You want to say, hey, how are things? What's going on? I see you're going through something. Just know I'm here for you. I hope everything goes well. Stuff like that. And it extended from you guys. I mean, you introduced me to some family members. You had a cousin Missy that lived around the corner, and Jessica Ritter, and a handful of other people that, and I know that's not her married name, but there were a bunch of people that I met when I was out there who we continued to stay in touch with, throughout our lives. And I still get random messages every once in a while. Somebody will say happy birthday. That's so meaningful to know that you have that relationship. So, and James mentioned it before, man, the peanut butter cookies, you just couldn't go wrong. I look forward to those every night. And I don't know how many we ate the first time out, but I know your mom baked like triple the amount the second time we came out there.
Right, knowing
we
that.
so much. We ate them every night before bed. It was outstanding.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
James, what you got, buddy?
I mean, it's like it happened yesterday. So, I mean, your parents had a tremendous impact on us. I mean, opening up their home to us, making us actually feel like their sons, and, I talked to your mom several times on Facebook, and it felt like my mom and dad, I mean, I felt welcome, felt, that was at home, especially the second year, man. I was fired up when I found out that your mom and dad were going to, we're still going to have the same host family. It was music to my ears, man. I mean, the experience that we had from all the little trips that we did, like I said, I can still remember the boat ride. I can still, remember shooting the guns. I mean, the peanut butter cookies, I mean, we said that 3 times now, so that definitely stands out. But,
So they were good.
And then, I mean, I can remember this, like your mom reaching out. I know she reached out to my mom and dad, like the first year of what do I like? What food do I like? What would I want for dinner and stuff like that? Just biggest heart in the world, man. It's just awesome. So, I mean, I know she's your mom, so you know what she is, but I mean, she was like a mom to us, and it was awesome.
And some of that stuff might be prompted, right? The I'm sure the tournament organizing committee says, if you're going to host players, here's your checklist of things to do. But to us and to our families, not knowing any of that, and your mom to reach out to his parents and to my parents to say, hey, how can we best make your sons comfortable? What do they like to eat? What are some of the things they like to snack on? We didn't know that.
Remember the Pop show? Pop, the Dr. Pepper?
Yeah, that's it. Pop is the appropriate word out there. Not soda,
Right.
not Coke.
No, it's soda. It's soda.
Is it soda?
We,
All right.
we do soda. Yeah, no, 10 years ago, I used to be Pop. I think everybody's like, I don't know, we're just not going to say Pop. You know how that all changes.
Yeah.
Lingo and slang stuff and everything else. So going into the first year, you guys coming out here, you guys are, for one, going to a new experience. You now get pulled over by the cops. You're coming in. You don't know anybody. And then you're told that you're going to be staying at some random people's houses. How'd that make you guys feel?
For me, like, I don't know. I guess I was a little worried, but at the same time, you know, when your mom calls my mom and tries to find out my favorite food and favorite drinks and stuff, I'm like, I guess this ain't going to be okay. And I don't know who had to switch room. Was it your brother or you had to switch rooms because me and Joe stayed in the other room in the bunk beds?
Right. The bunk beds. Right.
That would have been my brother because I didn't have the bunk bed. So, yeah, it would have been Sean. He would have slept. Yep, that's right.
See how these memories come
beds,
back
that's
almost
so funny.
20 years later?
I know, it's crazy. Yeah, yep, I didn't have bunk beds. I got kicked out of that room and then had my own little room. So I think it was in 95. But, man, she was so excited hearing that you guys are coming back. Of course, it's a short, you guys win like a week or 10 days before we find out the team's coming back. We find out that you guys are coming back. And I just remember my mom being like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited for this. Nervous, of course, because she wants to make sure everything's good and kosher and the whole 9 yards. But at the end of it, I think it was like welcoming you guys back to family almost. And again, it was a short stint. But you spend 24 hours basically with those people. And the only time you're away is at baseball practice and whatever else. And I got to say that you guys made a positive impact on me. I looked up to you guys. You guys are older. I want to see that, you play baseball. Of course, it was probably more of a, I don't want to say shallower, but not as a big impact at the moment. But then I look back at how much the little things mattered. I didn't remember going to the lake because I went to the lake all the time, right? And you guys say, I'm like, oh my gosh, that was a blast. That was so much fun. And I guess that was the one of the biggest reasons why I put this podcast on is because of the relationships that you develop. For me, my job, I do sales. I develop relationships. I love developing relationships. And then this one.
Another story. I don't know if you remember this or not, Travis, but like the first year we came out there and we wanted to do something because we knew we were going to have like a little cookout and stuff or whatever. And we brought little crab balls and and everybody loved them. And then the second year, I think we did a fundraiser within that week that we did. And we actually sent out crab cakes the second year. And we had that big party where we played volleyball and had the pavilions and stuff and everything else. It all comes back, especially talking to you guys, seeing you guys. Yeah, it's a tremendous experience. I wouldn't trade it for nothing.
Awesome. Okay, couple more questions for you guys. So, is there anything else you would like to share? Experience Connie Mack World Series, just the World Series, not the host family, but something that happened during a game that now that we've had this conversation kind of dawned on you, and also who do you keep in contact with through those teams? You guys kind of mentioned that a little bit earlier, and how you guys being on that team, how it's continued to live on until today.
That's a lot. That's like a 3-part question.
It basically was, yeah.
You gotta remember, we're old. You might have to remind me what the other 2 questions were after I answer the first one.
Okay, fair enough. I have it written down so I can remind you.
Gosh, I remember the first year, stadium was full. We got beat, but the first handful of runs that were scored, it was like a major league stadium and you were playing on the road. I can't remember what the actual scenario was. I feel like it was a double off the wall or something, and the other team scored a run or two. Might have been two, but I mean, the place erupted, and you looked around and you were like, "Holy smokes, this is for real." This is like, I mean, it was overwhelmingly cool, even on the negative side of that happening, right? Because it was just you'd never heard a ballpark like that unless you went, for James and I down to Memorial Stadium or Oriole Park once the Orioles moved to the new stadium. You'd never heard that in a game that you were playing in, and that was that kind of wow moment for me at the World Series for the first time after you get by all of the other stuff, right? The police escort and the seeing it all and checking it in and meeting you guys and in the parade, etc. That wow moment of, man, and now you're in a 2-0 hole or whatever it was, and you gotta come back and you feel like the crowd's against you. But when we scored, it was the same way. We had just as many people cheering for us. They want to see good baseball, and that's really what it was about.
Yeah, I can remember. I believe it was the first year, but the team. Now this wasn't our team, but the team from Puerto Rico, their catcher, he hit like a 3-run homer, pitch hit 3-run homer, and then the very next game he had actually in the pitch hit grand slam, and he had like a broken ankle. And it was the reason why he wasn't in the starting lineup. But they were down both games. And he pitch hit like in the 6th the first time. And then like the second time, I think it was the 7th. And he hit a 3-run homer and a grand slam. And like just the noise in that place, like Joe said, like we never played anything in front of nowhere near that noise. And it was definitely eye-opening, especially like I said, my first pitch off the mound hit the backstop. So. I had to get myself together.
Yeah, pull yourself together. So for me, I was fortunate enough, of course, to play for the host team. So I didn't really experience the crowd, but the first night that we played, the stereo and the sound system wasn't working, so they couldn't play the national anthem. So we're all on the baselines, right, both sides, just kind of waiting to see what happens. And I hear right where my parents sat, right behind the third base dugout, they start singing the national anthem. The entire stadium, it gives me chills to this day. The entire stadium is singing the national anthem as we are going to go out as the first time as the host team that year. And there was a lot of other moments, but that for me was hands down the coolest thing I've ever been a part of, not only the World Series, but just personally, that we are the focus. This team is the focus, and everybody's singing the national anthem because we're on the field. Not towards us, of course, but if we weren't on the field, we wouldn't be hearing the national anthem that night. And still to this day, that was exactly 25 years ago. So you guys were just 4 or 5 years ahead of me, I guess.
So Travis, is that something that you would always experience? Because I know playing high school ball, playing summer ball, we never had the national anthem before. So that was another thing that stuck out. Like, it was absolutely like, wow, we're actually doing this. This is the big leagues, like big league park, grass, the smell, the dirt, national anthem.
So every like doubleheader, we would have a national anthem play. Every beginning of the tournament, we would have a national anthem play. Every championship game as well. So it happened quite often. I never thought about that before because I always thought everybody did it. No. And then I go, that's crazy. All right. No. So every home game or host game for the World Series, they do it. And then every championship game, actually almost every game during bracket play, they still do it. So yeah, almost every single game, they still do it. And that's a big thing here. We're very much patriotic in this town. So that just adds to it. But it adds to the experience as well. I'm like, this stuff means so much to me. And then having in a stadium singing it just made it to like level 7,000, you know?
Joe, I know me and you've experienced it a million times, but Travis has never experienced the O, probably.
The O. Yeah. Yeah. It's impressive.
It's impressive. I like it. So, And the final words, do you guys have anything else you guys wanted to add to any what we talked about thus far? You guys have said a lot. Oh my gosh, I love every single minute of this.
I was trying to remember the other two questions that went in part with the
You
one
both
just
answered it,
asked.
actually. You guys both answered it. You did it in a roundabout way, but you got them both answered, so you're good.
Super.
So, any final words of encouragement for aspiring baseball players trying to get not only to the Connie Mack World Series, but also trying to get to that next level, from high school to college, or high school to maybe just a JUCO or Division One? Joe, you have been working in that realm for a while. What would you like to say to those guys?
Yeah, look, my parents always said it to me. My dad, particularly because he played and coached a lot, and he always said you've got to put the work in and the time in if you're going to be good at it, and you're not going to realize how exactly short of a time it is that you have to play when you're playing. It seems like practices take forever and seasons are long, but in all actuality, you get to a point where you might look back on your career and say, well, I regret I didn't do this or I didn't do that when I had the time that I could do it. And I try to pass that on to my kids, both of them in their respective sports, because he was right. So I'll say that, right? These kids have all these tools and resources. We spoke to that earlier. But I think what they don't get is enough knowledge on the field, because they're not on the field enough and they're not making time to be on the field enough. I heard a great clip on social media about Gino Ariema talking about why basketball isn't a better sport in this country. It's because all these AAU tournaments, all they do is play games all weekend long, but they only practice maybe once a week. And if they practiced maybe 4 or 5 times a week and only played 1 or 2 games on the weekend, that they could refine some of the more fundamental things that they need to do to be better. And I think baseball falls into that same fold. If kids would do a little bit more, just a little bit extra, get in some extra BP, throw a spot drill during the week and get with somebody that knows what they're doing, that can further, you as a hitter, you as a pitcher, and not just go to the field to play a game on a weekend or 3 games or 4 games, whatever it is, from, in a showcase event or these tournaments that are being played. Any chance you get to get on a field and make yourself better, you should do it. So I'll leave that as my parting words. Just don't take for granted the amount of time that you have. It seems like you have forever to play. You don't. It's taken away from you at some point, whether it's your own body or a coach that says, you know what, you're just not quite cut out to play anymore, or God, right? God has a habit of taking talents away from people that don't use them properly. And sadly, we all have a last day playing, putting on a uniform, and most of us don't realize it. Sometimes we do if it's the end of your college career and you're not going to play at the next level, etc. But if you want to play at the next level, do the little things, get out there on the field as much as possible, and be prepared as you move forward.
And I'll just
Thank you,
add,
Joe. That's awesome.
Joe pretty much hit everything on the head there. But I can remember, being young, and one of my coaches would always say, don't ever think about the games you won. Think about the games that you lost. What was it? What could make the difference? Did you like we said earlier, if you're a student of the game, you can, learning from your losses is definitely going to help you way more than your winnings. When you're winning, everything's easy. But when you lose, it shows your true character. It shows you your toughness, and it makes you get back, hitting the gym. I had no idea. Why would I want to go to the gym when I was younger?
Right.
Why would I want to run when I was younger? And I really never learned those things until, we had started playing at 17 and 18 years old. And Joe would remember the name, but the team that we played on when we were younger, Joe, that your dad had, Federal Dye?
Yeah, Harbor Federal.
Harbor Federal.
Yeah.
Until we started playing travel ball and getting the experience that we did in this, it was just eye-opening. Going to the gym, having a diet, taking care of your body. And it wasn't just, whenever you felt like it. It's an everyday thing. And just if you want to do it, shoot for the stars, man. Go for it.
Right.
Don't ever question yourself that you really never gave it a try. So that would be my last words. If you want it, go get it.
To me, the last thing on this, first of all, thank you so much for both of you taking the time and doing this. I know you guys are both busy. I'm so happy that the times met up and we were able to make this happen. And in doing this, I hope this is going to be one of many that I do in the future, hopefully more with you guys in the future as well. But I'm really trying to reach out to not only you guys that, we have that personal relationship, but also the players that have played that were impacted by the Connie Mack World Series that I don't know about. And that'll happen. But to build on what you said to aspiring baseball players, I've always said that you will never regret doing more, but you will always regret not doing enough.
Yep.
Out of all of this, I feel like you guys made a personal impact on my life in a positive way because you took the time to work hard on your end to get to the Connie Mack World Series. Sure, you didn't win the Connie Mack World Series. However, you're winning in life. And I know it's kind of a cheesy but you're winning in life now because your experiences and everything that you've done up to this point has led to where you are right now. Would you change anything? Sure, there's probably some things in your past that you would change, as would I. But at the same time, I wouldn't, because I wouldn't be the person I am today if it wasn't for those mistakes and those hardships and those good times and those bad times. Those are all that make who I am today. And you guys are one of the good times, one of the really big positive things in my life. But again, appreciate you guys, and thank you so much for taking the time. And we'll talk to you guys next time.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. All right.
Awesome.
Absolutely. Sounds great.
JB,
Thank you very much for